Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, or whatever time you're watching it. My name is Jeffrey, Mr. Tech Raskin. I'm here with Mr. Jake Youngs himself.
Welcome back to the Tech 4 podcast, guys.
There we go. Today is going to be super duper fun because we are going to go over something a little bit different from what we usually do, and that's going to be the...
You just gotta think of what this is. I think that this is going to be the battle between Apple and Windows. I guess you could also include Android, but we won't be touching base on Android in this video.
Yeah. By the way, cut out that part if you don't mind. Sorry, because So that's what I was trying to think of a good word. Okay. Okay. Today we're going to be talking about the battle between
Apple and Microsoft.
There we go. So you are, by the way, which one are you for?
I am 100% for Apple. The only reason why I run Parallels on my computer is because there's one piece of software I can't get on Mac, unfortunately.
So you're making excuses for Apple in our little battle here between the Microsoft guy and the
Apple guy.
And the Apple guy. Okay, got it.
Yeah, sure, something like that. If you want to say that.
Let's go ahead and duke it out.
Okay. So, Jeff, you were wondering a minute ago why I'm such a big Apple fanboy. And we touched base on this a couple weeks ago when we put together our episode on cloud storage and cloud systems and things like that. Jeff, you got to admit, the biggest, best, most amazing feature with Apple devices is the devices themselves and how well they talk to each other. I can go and take any of my devices and do my phone calls, my text messages, my FaceTime, everything on all of my devices. Plus, I can very easily connect to any of them over the same Wi-Fi network. I can do all kinds of stuff in the iCloud. I mean, gosh, what can you not like about Apple?
Spoken like a true Apple Kool-Aid drinking user over here.
Yeah, darn straight.
Okay, so let's go over the pros and cons of each of them. Yes, there are cons.
Wait.
I knew that was coming.
Wait. No, why are you for Windows? You skipped over that part.
Where do I start?
That's the same question the PCs are wondering because they can't start themselves.
I get. Here's the thing, right? 20 years ago, if you would have said, oh my gosh, Apple does this, Apple does that, you can do everything, and there's some things you can't do with a Microsoft device, I would actually agree with that. I would actually say, oh my gosh, so cool, you could do that. Guess what I haven't said in like the last 5 years? Not true anymore.
Why is that?
Okay, let's talk about this, right? So you just told me the power of Apple devices and the power of basically Apple computing power and the cloud and all that other stuff. But here's the thing. Everything you just said, I can do on this device right here, which is powered by Microsoft and the Windows operating system.
Using a lot of third-party products.
Got it. So let's talk about some called third-party products, non-proprietary, and Apple proprietary. Let's talk about this for a second. Let's get the facts straight, okay? So, who makes Microsoft computers? A number of different companies. We have, we had Gateway, which I think went away, but now we have Dell, we have Lenovo. Microsoft actually makes not only the inside, but they make the outside as well in the Surface series. And there's lots of other, basically, companies out there. In Japan, Sony makes one with the Windows operating system. Other countries will have their own shell, and then they use the Microsoft operating system. One of the biggest differences between Microsoft and Apple is that we basically say, hey, here's our Windows operating system. Go ahead and do whatever you like with it. Develop whatever kind of computer you want, and boom, as long as you're using the internals, in other words, what is the platform of the computer, we're good to go. Whereas Apple says we're building the outside and the inside, And I mean literally every piece of it, even the actual processor, right? They used to go ahead and source that out. They don't even do that anymore.
Pause there for a second. I can't help but notice that when Apple brought out their M series processor back in 2020, the MacBook Air, the weakest computer Apple has, was outpacing Intel's server-grade processors. Not by a little bit, by a good chunk. So just saying, you're dissing their processors, but we're smoking your tail left, right, and center.
Got it. I didn't even say anything bad or good. I just said the facts, which is that they were outsourcing their processors. I didn't say whether they're good or bad or not, right? But now they even make their own processors, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so that is the biggest difference. You would agree with this, right?
Totally.
Okay, so Apple, super proprietary, inside, outside, it's Apple, and that is it. Whereas Microsoft goes, hey, you go ahead and get whatever shell you want. Heck, you can make your own, right? A lot of people are like building their own computers and just bringing in the Microsoft operating system and we're good to go. So let's talk about the pros and cons of that. So basically, there's only one place you can go to truly fix your computer the right way, and that's going to be Apple, because Apple is Apple is Apple is Apple. Whereas Microsoft goes, oh, you have an issue. Well, guess what? You could go anywhere because we're an open system that anybody can do.
Yes, but caveat to that being is if you have a computer from HP or Dell or something like that, there's not really an HP or a Dell store that you can walk into. So you have to rely on third-party companies like Best Buy or some other company
Data
like
doctors,
Tech4RE
things like
to
that.
take care of you guys. Whereas at least when your Apple device does fail, on the very rare occasion that it does, you at least know where to go to get your support.
So I live 75 miles from any major city. For me to get my computer fixed, I need to go ahead and drive a couple of hours to go to an Apple store. With Microsoft, I could go anywhere in the world, and they'll fix my computer.
I mean, I could also take my Apple to Best Buy too, if I wanted to.
Yeah, but are they really going to be able to fix it?
That's a good question.
Okay. And by the way, we're having fun here today.
Yes.
When we get outside, then we can start throwing the punches. So just let you know. Okay.
When we get out back.
Okay. So bottom line is very proprietary, non-proprietary. That is one of the things. So let's talk about what it actually does, right?
Yes.
So now I am going to be the first one to admit, by the way, I really, really like, as a Kool-Aid drinking, Microsoft using dude, that I like how everything flows together, right? I do like that. So you have your iPhone, you have your iPad, you have your Mac, you have your, whatever, Mac Air, Mac Pro, whatever Mac you want to get. And they flow together very nicely, which
yes.
I like that. I like that. Once again, I think the biggest difference is that for me, I don't have to have all Mac products to do what I want to do. So let me give you a great example.
I would also agree with that, to be fair.
So I just want to let you know, I use iPhone, which is made by, Apple, that's right. Yet I like my Microsoft computer, which we're going to get into more detail as to why I like it. And so what happens is that because of that, I have a choice. I have a choice to use an Apple phone. I have a choice to use an Android phone. And by the way, there are Mac users, right, who actually do use an Android phone. I've seen it many times.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yes.
So here's the thing. So basically, I can pick and choose what I want to do because, once again, it's a non-proprietary system that I can get to work together. So basically, my computer, PC, works with my iPhone, that works with my iPad, even though I really don't need it, right? And works with everything, or my Android phone as well. It doesn't matter. Whereas yours, you're like, well, I need all Apple products to do what you're talking about.
Yes.
Okay.
And to be fair, guys, I'm going to kind of turn the tables a little bit here. Long before this battle ever occurred, I used to be one of the Kool-Aid drinking Android and Windows guys.
There we go.
I could not stand Apple back in the day. But the thing that really got me to move over to Apple is as I started moving more in the direction of doing a lot more production, a lot more design and stuff like that, it makes a lot more sense to use Apple for that kind of stuff. Whereas, to be fair, I can say for the average everyday user, or if you're a hardcore gamer, which I'm not sure many realtors are, but if you are interested in gaming and stuff like that, PCs are probably going to be better. Just, being fair, they both have their strengths, they both have their weaknesses.
You bring up a really great point. If you think about it, designers, especially CAD and stuff like that, they're usually using Apple. If you use, if you're talking about sound producers, movie developers, photographers,
yes.
right? Do they use Apple products more than PC? Hands down, they absolutely do, because that's what their strengths were. But on the other hand, you're right. As a gamer, like I've never seen somebody on an Apple device gaming. I just haven't. And by the way, I have some friends who are Apple Kool-Aid drinking users, and his son, super gamer, and he goes, I can't do that on Apple. So he just bought his shell, he put in Microsoft OS, and boom, and that's what he's using now.
Which actually, to be fair, if you want to game on Mac, there are cloud-based gaming systems out there. Like NVIDIA has their option that you can use for gaming over the internet. But, of course, gaming is not the focus of our debate here today.
Right. Okay, so let's talk about this. Everything you mentioned, which I like how you started off with saying, well, here's the things that the Mac can do, but let's talk about this, right? Once again, I have my iPhone. I can sync all my photos instantly. So as soon as I take a picture with my iPhone, it goes directly to my PC computer, my calendar, my contacts, all of my documents, all of my forms, everything that I do on any device, whether it be an Android or an iPhone, goes directly to my PC and vice versa. Geekiest word in the world that I use in about every single one of my classes, especially my flagship class that I started 20 years ago, Paperless Office. I call it platform agnostic. Right? Do you like it? Platform
Guys,
agnostic.
This guy is the only human being on the face of the earth that uses that term.
It's the truth. It's the truth. But I have to tell you, I really like the term. Because guess what? I don't have to use all Apple products. I can use whatever I want, also known as platform agnostic. Okay?
Well, and that is part of the beauty of a lot of these third-party platforms. It's like, even with Google, I can download all Google stuff on my iPad, on my iPhone, and on my Mac, and use the entire Google ecosystem on all of my devices.
Okay. So, my question for you is, why does Apple make an iPad, but they also make a computer called a Mac, whether it be a Mac Air, a Mac Pro? Like, why do they have two different devices and a lot of money spent on each of them to do what I can do on one device? I can't wait to see the answer for this one.
You have to go there. So
we're having a battle. We're having a battle.
Yes. You would think with the number of times that he's asked me this, I would have been prepared for this question. But here's kind of what I've come up with over the last several years between using an iPad and using a Mac. Of course, everybody knows the Mac has been around for significantly longer than the iPad has. And to Jeff's point, there has been a lot of demand for Apple to make a touchscreen MacBook.
Why don't they do it?
So they've given us a reason. I mean, the reason came out like 5 or 6 years ago. I don't know if they're ever going to do it. The reason that Apple gave us, which I'm not sure if it's true, but they're saying if we give you a touchscreen MacBook, it's unergonomic for you to reach out your hand and touch the screen over and over again.
And by the way, they told me that at the Genius Bar when I went to the Apple Bar, and I said, okay, so it's ergonomically not good, but hold on, but you have, let's see, a touchscreen iPhone, you have a touchscreen iPad, and you use the same way. It has a keyboard you could slip on there, but for some reason, the Mac would not be ergonomically correct. Like, how does that even make sense?
So here's the thing. My personal opinion, giving you my raw and honest answer, I think it's because Apple wants to sell you two different products.
You
because
think?
they want to make money off of you.
You think?
Here's a crazy thing, Jeff. This right here, this is a M1 iPad Pro from 2021. You take this thing and compare it to the MacBook Air with the same processor in it. I slap a keyboard on this thing, and the only difference between the two is the operating system and whether or not it has a touchscreen. And of course, the camera's on the back as well, but that's not really a important factor here. So the devices are very similar, and we've actually seen iOS and iPadOS and macOS over the years have become very, very similar.
Right.
They're using the exact same processor. I mean, shoot, you go to the home screen on the devices, and they look very, very similar. They're almost identical these days. Truth be told, I really still think it's because Apple wants to sell you two different products is
100%.
why they won't merge the two devices together. They come close. I mean, you can run almost all the exact same software on the iPad as you can on the Mac. But also,
Except for legacy programs.
yes, that is a good point. But also to that point as well, I grew up my whole life using a keyboard and mouse. I am A-okay with not using touchscreens. I mean, gosh, even when I am doing stuff on a PC, which, by the way, I do use PCs with touchscreens on them, I still find myself...
You do?
Yeah. Whenever I do lighting design and programming, I've got touchscreen screens on there.
Right.
Yes, so I do have those, but I still find myself, even regardless of having those, reaching for the keyboard and mouse instead of using the touchscreen, because I've just gotten to the point where a lot of the times with an actual computer, I'm a lot quicker with a keyboard and mouse than I am with a touchscreen.
Okay, I do have to stop you there. You are honestly and truthfully the first one I have ever heard, especially at your age. Now, if I'm working with a 110-year-old, right, they might have said that, but I don't work with 110-year-olds usually. And here's the thing that's kind of funny, right? So I've worked with many Mac users, and then they switch over to the touchscreen PC, which I still haven't dropped the bomb yet on you. But when they do that, you know, here's the thing. You know how they used to say, once you go Mac, you never go back? Remember that from I have to tell you, everybody, come on. Once you go touchscreen, it's impossible. It's literally impossible to go back to non-touchscreen. And people, they're like, I don't know, Jeff, I've been used to Mac for the last 20 years. And I'm like, look, we're going to try out the touchscreen computer. And if you don't like it in a week, you give me a call, and we'll go ahead and we'll go back to your Mac. And people... literally, they're like, oh my gosh, I could touch on my iPad, I could touch on my iPhone, and now that I have the touchscreen computer, literally, you go to a Mac and you start touching, and you're like, it doesn't work. So it's kind of funny that you say that, but I think that's an anomaly. I don't think most people would say it, because once you go touchscreen, you never go back.
Well, and to be fair, you can use your Mac with a touchscreen. You just have to get a third-party screen to do that.
Did you just say a third party?
Yes, third party. The only thing I have found so far. Actually, you know what? I will pause right there for a second. As far as third-party devices go and accessories, you guys may notice that this case right here on my iPad, this is not one of the Apple cases that comes
approved. It's not the one of the approved ones.
Actually, technically it is. It is one of Apple's preferred brands. But I will say, not only for PC, but also for Mac OS and iPads and things like that, you will never catch me buying another Apple keyboard or an Apple mouse again, because I like to use the Logitech. Well, no.
Oh,
pause there for a second.
Okay.
I like to use the Logitech stuff, not because it doesn't last longer, because it does last longer than most other companies. It'll last just as good as the Apple stuff does. It'll last just as good as some of the Microsoft directly produced stuff will. But in my personal opinion, I like the Logitech peripherals way better. They just seem like they're built better. They're going to last. And trust me, it's not because they're cheap, because the keyboard case for this thing was not that much cheaper than the Apple option.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, the Logitech, this case for my iPad, because it's got the keyboard, the trackpad on it, you want to guess how much it was?
120, I don't know.
So this keyboard case, when I got this back in 2021, I paid $229 for this keyboard case.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, so it's pretty spendy.
Well, I mean, compared to Apple's keyboard case at $279,
Got it.
I'll
Fair.
happily pay a little bit less for what is, in my opinion, a superior product.
Right. I understand.
The
That's
other
fair.
major kicker behind why I went with this case, I know I'm going on a tangent here, but one of the really piss-poor decisions that Apple made in designing their keyboard case for the iPad, especially the newer ones, is when you're working with the Magic Keyboard case, you can only angle the iPad in one specific direction, and you either have the entire case or no case. Whereas at least with this, just like your Surface, I just rip the keyboard off the bottom, set it off to the side, and there I go. So that's where I think this was a superior product.
Yeah,
Anyways, back to you.
And trust me, both Apple and Microsoft has made some pretty poor decisions in their business models, and it makes it crazy. And one of the poor decisions, I think, really nothing to do with the computer, but I really like how Apple has stores around, whereas Microsoft,
They had them and they're gone.
they made the decision to be like, we don't want to deal with the public anymore. We only want to deal with businesses, and they took all their stores away from.
Because nobody was showing up to the Microsoft
I
store,
don't
but
know
they're
about
flocking
that.
to the Apple store.
I don't know if they're flocking to the
I don't know. I went to Fashion Square back in the day when they had both, and I could go to the Apple store and find 100, 200 people go to Microsoft, and there's about 5% of that sitting in the Microsoft store. So just saying,
unless you have a picture, it's fake. So just so okay.
I don't know about that one.
Okay, so let's go over the doozy, okay? And this is where you're really going to have to, think about the next steps that you're going to be talking about. Are you ready?
Gosh.
Okay. How much did you pay for the iPad? About.
About $1,000.
Okay, got it. How much did you pay for the computer?
Which computer?
The Mac Air, Mac.
Oh, it depends on which one you want and the specs you want to get on it.
Plus or minus.
So let's say I go with a MacBook Air 15-inch model, one of the latest and greatest ones. Actually, I think I can tell you the pricing on that right here and right now.
You give me some roundabout figures here.
I've got it ready to go, but I'd say probably around like $1,300 to $1,500.
Got it. Okay.
You can get them on sale cheaper.
Let's just make it easy, right? We got a 50. Oh, and by the way, that's for the laptop. And by the way, how about for the desktop product?
So actually, you can get Apple's desktop products. You can get a Mac Mini, which by the way smokes the daylights out of PCs, for $550.
Got it. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to kind of summarize what we're talking about here, plus or minus everybody, taxes, blah, blah, blah. So you told me this is, and by the way, this is an iPad. Wait, 1,500? I already forgot.
About 1,000.
Okay, let's call it 1,000. We now got the computer, whatever. Let's call it 1,500. We're now at 2,500. Then we have a desktop at another 500. Let's see, 1,000, 1,500, the 2,500, another 5. Can we call it $3,000?
Yeah, thereabouts.
Got it. Okay. Did I tell you what I have?
No, but I bet you can't wait to do so.
I cannot wait to do this. Are you ready? So, let's talk about my full-blown computer. By the way, just go ahead and grab it really quick. Can you give me the weight? Yeah, I know.
I would never do that, guys.
Yeah.
I would never
Can you give me the weight on this thing compared to that? Fill them both. Brutally honest.
This is lighter.
A little bit lighter, right? But you don't have a keyboard.
Yeah, but the keyboard on this is still lighter than that.
Oh, well, okay. You know what? This is under 2 pounds. Okay, so under 2 pounds. He's gonna look it up. I get it. But with the keyboard, I can't imagine it being that much less.
No.
Okay.
No, they're almost identical.
Okay, so there we go. So we got a 2-pound device. Now, my computer. By the way, this is a laptop, right? So my laptop. Okay, because I told you I'm going to be dropping the bomb here. So the laptop.
All right, I got my nuke waiting for you.
Yeah. I want to hear about this. So we have our laptop, everybody. And by the way, my laptop is powerful enough to be my desktop. So what I do is when I go back to my home office, and I wish I had a picture here, or I wish we could show it on the podcast, but later you can see. And literally, I have one. Because of you, by the way, thank you. I used to have 2 monitors, and by the way, once you go 2, you never go back to 1. I could drag and cross, but now, because of you, thank you for this one, I have a 49-inch curved monitor. This thing is a bad boy.
And to be fair, he's not sure whether he should thank me or slap me for getting him hooked on this thing.
Yeah, I know, because I had to mortgage my house again. But it was worth it. I do thank you for this. It was beautiful. So whether you use 2 or 3 different monitors, which, by the way, we'll accept it, or a big 49-inch, the point is that I could go ahead and drag and drop the screen. So I can see Flex MLS on one side, TD Transacted S on the other side, and drag and drop Word, Excel. Heck, if you really wanted to, you can watch Netflix on one side and Hulu on the other side and watch, Breaking Bad and Dexter at the same time with blood all over your screen.
Okay,
I digress.
I can do that on my Mac.
Got it, but here is the biggest difference. Not only do I not need to spend $3,000 because this is my desktop, this is my laptop. Oh, guess what else it is? It's my iPad, Nook, Kindle, Galaxy. So if I want to read books, I don't need to go buy a Kindle. All I have to do is put it this way, and I can literally touch screen, go ahead and read it like a book. If I want to do my Galaxy, if you're into Android, download those Android products, boom, do that. Oh, guess what else I can do on my full-blown computer here? I have a stylus, just like the pencil, but the difference is you can only do it on an iPad. Remember, I don't need 3 different devices, 3,000, when I can simply put it like that. And guess what I can do? I don't know if you could see this, but I can write on it. Oh, and by the way, it does not have to be in black. I can literally do this in different colors. I can do this in, it's the coolest thing. I know. But here's the thing, 3-in-1. No, actually 6-in-1. Once again, no more iPad, Nook, Kindle, Galaxy. It's all wrapped up into one. Boom.
Okay, big whoop. I can get rid of my Mac and I can do literally everything I do on my Mac with my iPad.
Can you?
Actually, yes, I can.
Can you?
Yep, my video editing software is here on my iPad. My photo editing software is here. My web browser is here. Everything you just showed me is sitting here on my iPad.
Until we go to legacy programs, which, by the way, desktop programs, everybody, are real and they still exist. QuickBooks Desktop, because I don't want to pay the monthly fee. By the way, especially, we're in Arizona, but if you're in California, guess what you get as a member benefit? Zip form. And that means a zip form online version. But if you don't have internet, you're doing the zip form desktop version. Absolutely love it. Guess what you can't do on that? Oh, there we go.
Okay.
I told you the bomb was coming.
You've had a lot of really good points about your PC.
Especially this one.
Yes,
Come on.
Yes.
Come on. Okay.
I know.
Okay.
Now, here's the major kicker about PCs versus Apple devices, right? I never ever had a PC that lasted longer than 18 months to 2 years before it had to get replaced. You know what's sitting on that table over there? My 2015 MacBook Pro. You know what's sitting on my desk at home? My 2013 Mac Pro. Both of them still going strong over 10 years after they originally came out. Cannot do that with a PC.
Touche. 100%. So here's the thing that I will let you know. By the way, this is the main reason that people do tell me, they're like, Jeff, I had my HP and oh my gosh, it crapped out after, and I'm going to give you 100% credit on that one.
And to be fair, you keep on talking about the price tags of these devices, but just real quick, roughly how much did you pay for that Surface that's in your hand?
How much do you think this cost?
Probably about $800 to $1,000, if I had to guess.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it's depend now with everything, because they do make you pay for the keyboard separately, and actually.
One of the critical elements to that device.
Although I could use it like the iPad without it, but I like to type a little bit faster. By the way, I do want to let you know that if you do want with one of the ones that do have the keyboard built in, or the stylus built in, by the way, it's self-charging, so it doesn't take any battery. It's a magnetic stick. You take it out, and then when you're ready, you just plop it. And by the way, you can see the stick is pretty good because it obviously doesn't come out, and then I just put it in. But bottom line is, Not all of their Surface products family does it. So they have the Surface laptop, which is a general laptop. So that's going to be a little bit less expensive.
I think he's trying to dodge my question here.
No,
I'm not for the thing.
No, I'm not dodging the question. Okay, so this thing would be about $1,200.
Okay,
and depending on what model, 256 gig, 512, 1 terabyte, so things like that. But
so let's think about this one for a second. When we're thinking about how much money you're spending on these devices, going off of my history, PC's lasting about 2 years, maybe 3 years if I'm lucky. To be fair, I've had some really good Dells that have lasted a good long time, which, by the way, if you're going to go with PC, either go Microsoft or Dell, because those are the ones that will last you. But even those things, after you get about 2 years in, and they are slow as molasses. They take forever to load stuff up. I'm sure Jeff can probably agree with that to some degree, because I'm sure he's seen it. Maybe not necessarily with the Microsoft proprietary stuff, but with that third party. That's the major problem with all the third party stuff. Now, I will let you say what you're thinking, but I'm just thinking out loud here, like, sure, I might spend $1,000 on this iPad. I might spend $1,500 on a MacBook Pro on a good day. I might spend $1,000 on a desktop for my house. But you know what I'm still using 7 to 10 years down the road? That computer I spent $1,500 on a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
You know what I'm not using 7 years down the road? That PC that I've replaced three times over
I knew that was
in
coming.
the last 5 years.
Okay, so in defense, let's go ahead and talk about this for a second. I do agree that because Microsoft being an open system, you're going to get the whole spectrum of everything. So can I go down right now and to Walmart and get a $200 HP computer? And the answer is
yes.
Yes, absolutely. Can I go down and, not necessarily Walmart, but can I go down and get a $1,200 computer? And the answer is obviously yes. The difference is that I believe that you pay for what you get, for the most part. Okay,
yes.
So let me tell you something, everybody. You're paying for a $200 computer. Now, if you are there to go ahead and do your banking, do Facebook, do things online, and not really worry about processor speed, I think you're going to be okay with that.
Well, even if I were to do something like that, like if all I'm doing is my banking, basic online stuff, I still wouldn't go to Walmart and go buy a brand new PC. Now, not just because it's not a PC, but I would actually go online to a website like Back Market, for example, and go find
100%.
a used or refurbished iPad that's a couple of years old, because it's still going to work. And it'll cost you the same price and still be faster than that $200 PC.
So it is slow, and it is all the things that you mentioned, so I do agree with that. Now, however, because of my philosophy, you kind of pay for what you get. I have people, now remember, I have been selling and setting up the Surface Pro Series for, oh my gosh, I think I have people back to 2007 or something like that. Now, do I have people from 2007 calling me up and be like, I've used my computer for, almost 20 years? No, I don't. But do I have people calling me up and say, I'm on my Surface Pro 3 from 12 years ago and it still works great, but I think it's going to crap out on me? Do I think, yes, I do. And honestly, I do. So will a computer, a PC, last you, 15 years? It will. But once again, you're getting the $200 one. It absolutely is not.
Right.
Do I think that they're more sturdy in general? Yeah, absolutely. They're very, very well made. I'll never forget. There's another realtor friend of mine. His name is Mike. And if you're watching, you know who I'm talking about. And he also loves Apple products. And he goes, you know what? He goes, I literally left my computer on the top of my car. And he goes, and he drove away. Sure enough,
boy.
Are you ready for this one?
Boy.
He picked it up. There were some scratches, but it still worked. Now, to be fair, if this dropped the hood of my car, I don't think it's going to last long. I'm not sure about this. And here's the thing. Once again, I'm going to give credit where credit is due. You've heard my story about my iPhone. I did put it on the top of my car a few years ago. It did, roll off in the middle of Shea If you know what Shea Boulevard is, everybody, there's like 2,000 cars, an hour. Might be exaggerating a little bit, that ran over
Major thoroughfare.
It was in the middle of the road, and I have to tell you, I used another iPhone to find it with GPS, and it was cracked. It was everything, but I will say this, it was still in GPS mode, and I was able to find it. And by the way, the Apple Store, they did replace it for me. Look, I got to give credit where credit is due. There are some really, really cool things that Apple can do, super sturdy, all that other good stuff. But I still like my touchscreen. Make a touchscreen Mac, and I'll go get it.
Oh, you guys heard it first. Give them a touchscreen.
Wait, hold on. But the thing is, they're never going to make it because they would lose the iPad sales.
Well, yes, to a degree, I definitely agree with that. But there's always going to be a market for the iPad. There's always going to be a market for the MacBook and for the Mac desktops. Like for me personally, I'm also that guy who I specifically bought each different device because each one has a different purpose.
Right.
I like being able to come home and have a computer ready to go for me without having to plug anything in. If I need something off my MacBook, cool, I'll just connect to it over the internet and I can drag and drop files between the two. Then I've just got this computer that's always ready to go.
So that's interesting that you said that. See, my philosophy is very different from yours in that respect, right? So what I do is, you have known me well enough where I don't leave home without this, right? It's kind of like the Amex back in the day. You don't leave home without it. So in other words, what happens is that this is always with me unless I'm on true vacation, and I'll take it on vacation, but not to the beach with me because, you don't want that. But here's the thing. This thing doesn't leave my side. It's literally like my phone, and it's light enough where it's a large phone. But here's the difference. Once again, I use this as my laptop, but then when I want to pop it in, I want to go watch Netflix, or I want to go read a book, is all I have to do is literally come over here, pull it apart, and there it is, everybody. When I'm ready to come back together, it literally clicks in. You can see how sturdy it is, and boom, I'm ready to go back home, and then it's one cord. So what I do is I stick in the cord in here, and it will power up everything. I think I have about 7 different devices in my home office. So I have my printer, I have my scanner, by the way, old school, right? Scanner, there's no such thing as a I don't think there's such a thing as a Bluetooth scanner. So I'm literally popping in the old school, USB. I also have
cable connections are still better anyways.
Yeah, and they always are. So I have cable connected old school devices. I have, you've seen my office many a times, and I have different little fun controls up there. It's like 7 different devices, and I plug it in, just one cord, boom. And now, once again, desktop, laptop, iPad, Kindle, Galaxy. So that's what it is.
So your Surface has Thunderbolt in it, right?
It does.
You know what else this thing has? I've got Thunderbolt on my iPad as well. I can go right to your house, straight to your docking station, plug it in, and get everything that you've got.
So I think to that, right, I think everybody, it changes every couple of years, right? And so nowadays, think about the new iPhones. They use USB-C. So I want to let you know, USB-C, which are the micro USBs, whether it be that, or not necessarily that, but your Mac, right? By the way, this only comes with USB-Cs anymore. So basically, you could go to my docking station. You could plug in the USB-C, and it will do the same thing. So that's the thing, is that they're becoming so similar. 10 years ago, I would have been like, oh my gosh, they're way too different. I just don't see it. There's going to be a few things here and there, like when you scroll up and down your Mac, to me, it goes backwards. So to me, this would be normal to go up to down. You can
set it whichever direction you want to go.
Oh, which is kind of cool, right? Up, down, it only makes sense, but for some reason, it goes backwards. I could never figure that out.
Yeah,
one of these
that
days,
messes with me too.
Yeah, one of the days you're going to have to explain that to me because I can't understand that philosophy. And you could probably do it in the PC as well, I'm assuming. I don't know why anybody would want to do that.
But I'm not sure. Not sure about that one.
That's kind of a weird one. So to be fair, a lot of these devices and the operating systems, they're very, very similar nowadays, right? There's going to be a few differences. The look is going to be different. With Mac, you have green, yellow, and red for, whereas over on the PC, and that's in the left-hand corner, with the PC, it's going to be in the upper right-hand corner, and you got the X, you have the box in the box, and you have the, minimize button. So, but they're very similar in terms of what they do.
I definitely agree with that. And there are pieces of software out there that you can download on your Mac. If you like the PC look and feel, there are pieces of software that you can download to make your Mac look like a PC.
Yeah. And notice, by the way, there's no software that makes the PC look like a Mac.
Well, it's because once you start using a Mac, you don't want to go back to the PC.
Okay, I get it.
But let's bring this back down to a more, shall we say, humane level. Of course, we both have our differences here, and you sit on the Windows side of the fence. I'm on the Apple side. We're tossing this volleyball back and forth.
Which once in is a good thing, right? Because if we're both drinking the same Kool-Aid, you aren't going to get any differences of opinion. And guess what? This is America. And I think it's good that we don't agree on everything. So
I would agree with that. But let's bring this back to the level where other realtors can kind of work with this.
Yeah.
Let's say you've got somebody who's trying to decide between PC and Mac, or maybe they've made up their decision already. Number one, I wouldn't suggest picking between one or the other based off of my opinion or Jeff's opinion.
I agree.
I would definitely say, go into Best Buy. Go talk with, just as an example, go to Best Buy. Go play around with the Microsoft products and the Apple products. See which one you like the most. Some vendors even allow you to do rental periods with the devices where you can take them home for a week and get to know them really well. But pick the device that you like for the look and feel, and of course the way that it works. You want to find something that you're happy with, regardless of what it is, even if it's Linux. I mean, gosh, I don't know many people using Linux, but that's beside the point. Jeff, I do want to ask you the question. I'm also going to answer it myself.
Yeah.
I'm a realtor. I'm a real estate professional. I'm looking at a Windows device. What do you suggest for me? Is it the Surface Pro, or is there something else that you would suggest for me to look into? Maybe top 2 or 3 devices.
I hate to avoid this question because I will answer it, I promise you. But I just want to mention 2 things, right?
Yes.
When you're going in to Best Buy or wherever you get your computers, everybody, I will say this. Also, I'm just telling you this out of experience. I've had so many people of my generation, and they go, Jeff, my kid told me to go buy a Mac. And I was in Best Buy, and I got a little, Apple, the kid's wearing an Apple hat or whatever, go get an Apple product. You have to remember, what your kids want and how they use their computer is going to be completely different for what you do as a realtor. And that is super important because I've had this so many times when Jane, the average 60-year-old realtor, she'll come to me and she's like, oh my gosh, my kids is all they do is Apple. And they go, Mom, you need to go get Apple. And I'm like, if that's really what you want to do, but they're not in real estate, right? And they do it, and then they're like, oh my gosh, doesn't have touchscreen, doesn't do this. And I'm like, I told you, you can't do what your kids want you to do. And then just one other thing that I will say, and I'm getting into the nitty gritty here, but, and not to give.
Getting right down to it.
And not to give another jab, because I'm really not here. I'm all about being humane and everything. But I will say this, there are so most programs, when they're written for a PC, and then they convert it over to Mac. Now, hear me out on this one, okay?
Because PCs are more common than Macs.
Yeah, they're more common, right? But one of the ones that I get a question all the time is, now this is going to be hyper-local to ARMLS and, flexible, not hyper-local, a lot of MLSs across the country, and here in Arizona use MLS. But let's talk about the feature where you could draw a map. I've had a lot of iPad users, and they tell me it's really difficult to do it on an iPad. I don't know if you've seen that or not.
I've never tried it on an iPad.
So try it later on, because I know that I get the questions, and I'm like, there's some things you just can't do on an iPad. I'm not blasting it. I'm just saying some things you can't do on an iPad that you can only do on a computer, so PC. Okay, so
yes.
Back to your question, right? So what should I get? Here's the thing, everybody. I honestly don't care what brand of PC you get unless it's just a cheapie that we know is going to crash in 18 months. I hate to name any names because I don't want to get sued or anything like that. I'm not a big HP guy. Okay,
HP used to be really good about 10 to 15 years ago, but their latest and greatest lineup, just I have to be that guy. It's not impressive.
They know they're the low cost leader. They know they're the low cost leader, and labor is expensive and parts are expensive, and they're making it for that market, everybody. So if you want to use your computer for 18 months, gosh darn it, go get a $300 a piece of HP, and you're going to be good to go. Okay. I don't know if I can go down every one, and some of them we don't even have here. You know, I told you in Asia, they have makers that are not here at all, at least not that I've seen. Sony makes a computer. They're out of Japan.
Sony used to be in the U.S.
Yeah. You have to be fair, they were, right?
Yes.
There's some other Panasonic. I don't know if you know this. Panasonic makes one. Okay. So I used to live over there, so I used to see all these different makers, and I'm like, oh, we don't have that in the U.S. So to be fair, once again, non-proprietary product, you can go and research it. I obviously am a Surface Pro family user. So in other words, I like the Surface Pro series that I've had for, generations of them, starting from 1, 2, 3, 4, and they're up there now. I've had that for the last 15 years. I'm going to recommend that. Maybe a little bit more expensive than a Lenovo, a little bit more expensive than Dell. It's probably going to last you a little bit longer. But to be fair, I do like Dell. I do like Lenovo's. And so that's it. But once again, everybody, just don't go get a $300 to $400 computer. So you're not going to be happy with it.
You will be spending that $300 to $400 over and over again.
Right?
Yes, I get it. It's cheap now. But if you want to get something that's going to last you and you can't afford it right now, number one, you probably shouldn't be buying it right now. But there are financing options available out there if you need them. Do your own research on that.
Right.
But I will also back up what Jeff is saying here is if you're looking to buy a PC, spend the money, go get something directly from Microsoft because you're getting it from the people that make the software. And as such, if you're getting it from the people who are making the software, you're going to get something that's optimized for the software that you're using and it's going to be built to last.
And talking about that, remember, if you get it directly from Microsoft or me, right, because I do directly from Microsoft, come to us. But I do want to let you know, also the different programs, those pop-ups that you get, right? They all put it in except for Microsoft because it's Microsoft. So in other words,
the third-party bloatware.
That's exactly what it is. So in other words, when you get those pop-ups like, "Hey, HP wants to notify you," and that's what they don't put in. What is it called again?
The bloatware.
They're the bloatware. That's exactly right, and that's what it is. And same thing when you go directly to the manufacturer. I know that Android phones, which is made by Google, I know that if you go directly to Google and you get that, you're not going to get those pop-ups with the bloatware. But if you get it from Samsung, if you get it from Motorola, you're going to get those.
Right, absolutely. So let me flip to the Apple side of the spectrum over here. And I want to preface what I'm telling you guys just simply based off of the fact that we're in the real estate industry. Maybe somebody outside of the industry is listening to this, but we're focusing on the real estate industry here today. And the major thing that I want to let you guys know, especially with Apple devices, is number one, it's really easy to spend a lot of money, but it's also very, very easy to go to Apple and buy too much of a computer. I mean, gosh, you can go to Microsoft and buy too much of a computer as well.
Yeah, you can.
But let's be real about what a realtor is going to be using a computer for. You're browsing the MLS, you're posting stuff on social media, maybe you're doing some work within Canva. What you're not doing, at least most likely not going to be doing, is editing videos, editing photos.
Fair.
You're probably not doing something that requires a boatload of power. If you're doing that, I would definitely suggest focusing on the Pro series of devices from Apple. And that's really, I believe, where Jeff would agree those devices
100%.
shine is in that production stuff. But what I'm going to say is, for those of us in real estate, my personal favorite pick of a device for a real estate professional has to be the 15-inch MacBook Air, one of the latest and greatest models. Apple just really, over the last couple of years, decided to start adding on to their Air lineup. You know, we've got bigger iPad Airs. You know, you can go and get a 12.9, a 13-inch iPad Air, which is basically the Pro, but stripped back a little bit for about half the cost. You know, you go to Apple and go get the, let me check what the pricing is on it currently. Yeah, so as of right now, the M3 is the latest and greatest MacBook Air that you can get, and you can go and get the baseline model with 8 gigs of memory, 256 gigabytes of storage for $12.99. I see these things on sale on Amazon frequently for $200 off. I've even seen them for $9.95 at one point or another. Guys, let's be honest about it. For you, what you're doing with the M series processor, you don't need a lot of RAM, you don't need a whole lot of really big beefy guts, and you don't need a massive SSD inside of your computer either. You can use your cloud storage, you can use your external hard drives, your USB sticks. Most of the stuff that you'll ever need to do is going to wind up going in the cloud anyways. Don't spend a boatload of money getting a big SSD from Apple.
You know, it's actually a really good point. So I want to remind you, everybody, you know, are the bells and whistles fun and good and stuff like that? Yeah. Is it worth it? 100%. I mean, a lot of times you are not using half of this stuff. So do I need all the bells and whistles and the extra? I would say not. I also want to mention one other thing that I'm going to bring up for you. Okay. To your defense, because like I said, I'm a fair-minded person. I do want to let you know one of the things that I love about Apple, okay, is that
good.
Well, because like I said, I'm brutally honest. I don't have a problem giving credit where credit is due. The Apple stores and also the Apple Online Support Center. If you need help with your device, whatever device it is, they'll help you anytime. A lot of it is American text, which I really like that one. And they literally will log on and they have this arrow and they'll be like, point here or click here, do this. That is super cool. I'm going to give Apple 1,000% credit for that one because unfortunately, not only do we not have any Microsoft stores, but that online tech support, it's just not there. So
yes, I would also agree with that. I want to give you guys the 2 other devices I would recommend, and then we'll get this thing wrapped up. Here's the thing. If you're looking for a budget model computer and you don't need something to take on the go, Apple's got their brand new Mac Mini, which is like basically this size. It's really tiny. It's 5 inches by 5 inches by 5 inches. It's literally a cube. And that you can get that thing for under $600 from most places. If you're looking for something to where you don't need a ton of power that can run up to 3 monitors at 4K, mind you, that's where I would suggest going and looking is with the Mac Mini. And if you're looking at a good iPad option, I would say don't focus on the standard iPad. Don't go to the Pro unless you really, really need that extra power. But focus on, just like the MacBooks, focus on the Mac or on the iPad Air series, either the 11-inch or the 13-inch series. I'd shell out a little extra and get the extra screen real estate, you know, get the 13-inch version of the iPad Air. But that's my personal opinions on the devices there. And bearing in mind that the iPad Air can do a lot of the same stuff that the iPad Pro can, it's just not quite as powerful and doesn't have the M4 processor like the iPad Pro does at this point. So that's where I stand on my Apple devices and my recommendations for you guys. But again, as always, prefacing this by saying go in, go play around with the devices for yourself, make your own opinions, evaluate what you want to do. And I think Windows, Microsoft, just like Apple, you can probably go on the website and use the compare tool. Right. And there's probably a little pop-up that will come up at the bottom with a little Quizlet asking you which device is right for me.
Correct.
And that is always a great place to go. And you always want to be honest with that, for sure.
I just want to, as my last parting words, I'm going to do just one last gut punch. And that is, how many devices did he just talk about? Let's see, talk about which best. Mac Mini, which is a desktop. and then you got the iPad, which is the second device, and then you got the Mac Air, right, which is a third device. And what is all wrapped up into one? One device. So,
Yeah. I know.
I love it. He's my friend.
To be fair, though, I can go to Apple and get the Mac Mini and the iPad Air 13-inch for less than what it's going to cost you to buy that.
But you need
Surface.
2 different devices. I want my one device that does what 3 different devices does. Da-da-da.
Yeah. But also, as my final gut punch, and then I'll wrap us up here, is the stuff that you're doing with a touchscreen on an iPad is optimized for a touchscreen. Not everything is optimized for a touchscreen on a PC. So with that being said, guys, we'll go on ahead and wrap us up here.
I love it.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of watching myself and Jeff duking it out over which is better. And we will see you in the next episode of the Tech 4 podcast.
Thank you.